Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending today. I am Mark Frisco, the board chair for the Calvert County Chamber of Commerce and the chairman of our Business Advisory Committee, formerly known as Government Affairs, and I'll be moderating tonight. I want to give a special thanks to Prince Frederick Volunteer Fire Department. Thank you for having us. This is such a great venue and location. We're blessed to have this place in our county, so thank you for allowing us to do this here. The purpose of this evening is to provide an opportunity for chamber members and voters in the general election to learn about the positions of the candidates running for Calvert County Commissioner and Sheriff. Questions for this forum were developed by our Business Advisory Committee. I want to especially thank the candidates for coming tonight to share their view on the questions that we have presented, or we will be presenting. Unfortunately, Mr. Ty Ireland could not be here today. He's supporting his son at his last 4-H livestock show at the fair tonight, so unfortunately he will not be with us. Cards for questions are on the table near the door over there, and you can bring them to the timekeeper table here in the middle if you have a question that you would like to be proposed. I will do my best to get the questions in, but in the essence of time, we may have to leave some. So each candidate, you guys will have 1 minute to answer questions. Kathy will be screaming at you from the table over here if you exceed your 1 minute. We want to try to be respectful to everybody and keep this thing moving, so do your best to keep it to a minute. You will have 1 minute for a self-introduction, and then you'll also have a minute for a conclusion at the end of this as well. There will be a number of questions, so make sure that we rock and roll and get through it. And again, our timekeeper, Miss Kathy Maney over there, she will throw something at you if you go over the time. I got one chuckle in here. I appreciate that. We got to lighten this place up somehow. So I have looks like about 9 questions from our committee, three of which are for the sheriff. I'm going to try to weave you guys in there. But feel free if you have a comment that you would like to make on any of the other questions, you can jump in on that too, although it may not pertain to you. So I'm going to jump right in with the first question being on local preference. Do you, and this is for the commissioners, what's that? Oh, intros. Sorry. Go ahead, guys. Intros. We'll start at the end of the table with Mr. Mark Cox.
For those of you who do not know me, I'm Mark Cox, lifelong resident of Calvert County, running for County Commissioner District 2. I want to thank the Chamber for having us this evening. I want to thank Prince Frederick Firehouse for hosting this event also. And I would like to say this: our thoughts and prayers go out to all who has been impacted with the hurricane that just went through Florida. As you all know, we have a lot of residents down in that area that has been impacted. The last reunion that they had down in Florida was close to 200 people. It was only about 2 weeks ago that I made the trip down there to visit some of these folks, and just driving through Fort Myers, up through Cape Coral, and over to Port Charlotte. Beautiful place, and I just want to say our thoughts and prayers are with these citizens of Calvert County. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hart.
Hi, my name is Mike Hart, and I want to thank everyone for putting this on tonight. I grew up here. I have a wife, 2 kids. I've had the privilege of being your commissioner for the last 8 years. During that time, I've voted against tax increases, lowered taxes 3 times. We've achieved the best credit rating Calvert County's ever had, and we've maintained that for 6 straight years. We've put money into public safety. We've put money into safety in schools. We've worked on infrastructure, and it's been a pleasure the whole time, and looking forward for your support in November.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Grosso. I'm a lifelong Republican. I've lived in Calvert County with my husband and our 3 children. It'll be 47 years this November. I've been very active in the community over those years. I headed up the Calvert County Republican Central Committee, the Republican Women Leaders of Calvert. I was on the Board of Library Trustees. I was part of that group which selected the site for our library in North Beach, and also went over the architectural details, and we offered our input as to how we want our new library to look. I've also been on the hospital ball committee. I'm running because I want to restore the quality of our life in Calvert County. Too much growth, such as apartments, high-density apartments, are destroying our community. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Tricia Powell, and I've lived in Calvert County for 25 years. I have a master's in business administration, and I have 10 years experience working in county government, where I did cost studies, developed and prepared multi-million-dollar budgets, and I did policy analysis. The other half of my career has been spent as an administrator and a chief financial officer. I enjoy Calvert County. It's my home. I care about the town centers being prosperous. I care about the people. So that is why I am running this term. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Daryl Roberts, and I have the first thing on my list is I have to say happy birthday to my wife. Today is her birthday, so I know this is not where she wanted to be spending it, but honey, thank you for coming out. And also thank you for coming, because I know the fair is going on, and it's with the rain coming, I don't know how many opportunities we'll get to be there. So thank you for coming this evening. I have my family here. We found Calvert County over 8.5 years ago, so I've been blessed to be born American, and I've been twice blessed when we found Calvert County. And when we found Calvert County, I fell in love. I grew up in Kentucky, so grew up on a farm, and this felt like home to me. So we brought our family here to raise them, and we still have a daughter in high school right now. But before, and we'll talk a little bit later in closing statements, but Navy, Army, ran a nonprofit. We'll talk more later. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chelsea Montague, and I'm running for the at-large position. Terribly sorry. I'm running for at-large. I'm Southern Maryland born and raised, and I've lived here in Calvert County for about 7 years now. You may have seen me out and about with Feed the People Southern Maryland, and I hope to bring that same approach of providing hope and help and services to the whole community, regardless of who they are, where they came from, or what their situation is. My ultimate goal is to bring a little bit of humanity to the Board of County Commissioners, with working for the working class that has been all too ignored in many cases, and also hoping to try new strategies and thinking outside the box by working with outside agencies and other mutual aid groups. Thank you.
So good evening, I'm Buddy Hance. I live in Port Republic. I'm a candidate for at-large commissioner. I currently serve as president of the county commissioners. I'm ending up my first term. I ran 4 years ago to protect the rural character of this county, and I think that my actions in the last 4 years show that I'm doing my best to do that. My family's been here for a very long time, and I plan on my family staying here for a very long time. So it's incumbent upon me, I feel, as a responsibility to try to help maintain the culture and rural character of Calvert County. So I ask for your vote on November the 8th, or any time whenever you vote during this general election season. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Vaughn J. Johnson. I'm running for sheriff of Calvert County. I want to thank everybody for putting this together. I am born and raised in Calvert County. I've been here my whole life. I left maybe a couple years, but I'm born and raised here. My family's born and raised here. I've been at the sheriff's office for over 23 years now. I've been servicing this county since I've been walking, if I'm being honest. I've coached, mentored, did bull roasts, Christmas and Aprils. I've been doing it with my church since I've been knee-high to my grandfather. So serving this county is pretty much all I've done all my life. And now I want to be the sheriff of this county so I can continue to service this county. Being a deputy was my dream job, and I'm living my dream job right now. So my calling now is to be the sheriff of Calvert County so I can continue to service this county the way that I love to service the county. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank the Prince Frederick Firehouse for putting this on in the chamber. Thank you. My name is Ricky Cox. I'm running for the office of sheriff, and I've put a lot of time, hard work, dedication into the position that I'm I'm at this point in my career, and I owe a lot of people thank you. I graduated from Calvert High School, born and raised on a tobacco farm. My parents shipped me off to Parris Island, which landed me in Iraq, and I got to lead Marines twice in 2 combat tours, which kind of laid the pathway for my. I feel that my leadership abilities, it was tough on us, and I was put through a lot of adversity, and I think that's what makes me, a good instrumental leader, which will help guide our sheriff's office and be that servant leader that we're looking for our community. But I'm ensuring school safety. That's one of my main points. I want to keep our staff and our students safe. Enhancing drug education and enforcement. We're losing a lot of people, up to 22 people per year. We can do better. And making mental health and domestic violence a priority. Thank you.
All right. Now we can start with our questions. Sorry about that earlier, guys. So I'm going to begin with a question about local preference, and this is for the commissioner candidates. Do you intend to resubmit a request for local preference if you are elected? If you submit, will you commit to ensuring that the chamber and business community is included in the process to provide support for this effort? And I guess we'll begin on this end this time with Commissioner Hans.
Yeah, so last year,
Okay. I'll get a little closer to the mic. Do you intend to resubmit a request for local preference if you are elected? If you submit, will you commit to ensuring that the chamber and business community is included in the process to provide support for this effort?
so yes, I support local preference. This firehouse that you all are sitting in tonight, one of my first actions as a commissioner was to approve the contract to build this new firehouse. This was an $11 million project. A local company located right here in Calvert County missed this bid by $19,000, and I thought that was ridiculous. So we introduced legislation trying to get local preference. We didn't think we were going to have the issues that we had to get that legislation passed. We will reintroduce that this year and work much harder, and we would appreciate the support of the chamber and anyone out there that will help us get that legislation passed to help our local businesses.
Yes, absolutely. As Mr. Hens said, they missed it by $19,000, but that extra $19,000 would have gone immediately back into our local economy to the people who work for those businesses and own those businesses. So local preference, yes, and in regards to the Chamber of Commerce, absolutely working with you and the businesses that are a part of it to help shape those policies and plans.
Yes, local preference is very important. I think any projects going on inside the county needs to have local preference. I think it's also essential that we have agreements where we are employing the people inside Calvert County. So if you're residing inside Calvert County, then those jobs should be going to you within Calvert County. And I think any time that we're going to do projects that we involve the personnel that are involved in them, so the Chamber of Commerce, absolutely. The business owners, the other people, the other residents that live here, absolutely. Let's bring everyone together. Let's discuss what's happening. Let's make sure we have local preference forefront. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with local preference. If we need to, of course, include Chamber of Commerce. I think if we didn't, we would be very short-sighted. The other thing, too, is that by having local preference, we are feeding our own infrastructure, and I think that's very important. Thank you.
I support local preference 100%, and I also support community input. I think that we should keep jobs in Calvert County, and for a few $1,000s, I know there was one project, it had to do with, I guess you'd call it lawn service, and a Pennsylvania company beat out our local company by $3,000. We can't let that go to Pennsylvania. It has to stay in Calvert County. Thank you.
So Commissioner Hans answered it perfectly. It's something we've been working on for quite some time with our partners in Annapolis. It takes enabling the legislation in Annapolis. And Catherine just said is correct. And there's a lot of examples like that across the county where just a small amount and we lose it outside the borders and it helps no one here. We have had some success with putting reciprocal legislation in, which helps trying to level the playing field a little bit, but it's not enough. And absolutely, we welcome any support from anybody we could to help us get our issues through in Annapolis.
Yes, I do support local preferences. Like the panel up here just said, it supports Calvert County, and we need to do that. Thank you.
All right, and we'll start at the opposite end of the table with you, Mr. Cox, this next time. Next question is about growth in Calvert County. What are your thoughts on growth in Calvert County, business and residential? Do you believe that both are necessary? If the answer is no, can you explain how businesses can grow without residential growth and or vice versa?
Okay, so with growth, we do need to maintain a smart growth approach. We do need to build a tax base with more businesses in the county. We can do that very easily by doing some more industrial parks, but we must grow the tax base in Calvert County. With smart growth, we do have the adequate public facility plan. We need to revisit this more than just once a year, every 2 years. And with that, it's going to keep the growth, and it must be with the infrastructures, with our water, sewer, and our roads being looked at all times. Thank you.
So before we can have expanded growth or things of that nature, we've got to get the infrastructure caught up. Too many septics are failing. Roads are not adequate for growth. Some of the studies we've got in the past, they never addressed out to the full artery. The adequate public facilities ordinance that we're working on now is going to address these things. The schools, there was a time we were building a school every year in the 90s. The tax base can't sustain that. No matter how many businesses you bring in, our piece of that school is going to be anywhere from $35 to $50 million per school, Calvert County's portion. So you have to be really thinking going out. You can't just do it without a plan. You have to get the infrastructure caught up, and then you have to bring in complementary type businesses. To do the same thing over and over and over is not going to help that business side by side. But it is something that we're working on, and we understand the need.
Our infrastructure is not supporting the growth that we have now. I'm for slowing down growth. I'm definitely against high-density growth like apartments. Our traffic studies that have been done are not compatible to the lifestyle in Calvert County. We cannot compare ourselves to Prince George's County, to Montgomery County. Broadband. We don't have good broadband for everybody in this county with so many people working from home. And we need that. And we have children that don't have access to a computer to complete their schoolwork because broadband is inferior in this county. Every person in this county should have broadband. And we should enable our county and our children to grow at a slower pace. And when we do grow, we need to grow strategically. That's been our problem.
I was speaking to a woman the other day about her husband who needed health care at home. And she told me that she had to wait on a list to get someone to come to her house to assist her with her husband. We need to think about those kind of issues because our infrastructure, there's so much, we're limited on land and other resources like water. We need to make sure that when we grow, that we are growing in a managed, controlled way. I think that our town centers need to be invested in. I think we need to focus on tourism to bring more revenue in. And I believe that our growth can be prosperous. Thank you.
So when I told the story earlier, when I did my introduction, I said I came to Calvert County for a reason. And when we came down here, I felt that rural feeling. It reminded me of home. I saw the hay fields, I saw the farms, And we don't want to lose that, right? We love Calvert County for set reasons. And we keep our people here because of that feeling of peace it brings us. And we don't want to lose that. So that any growth that we speak of, first of all, must be open to the public so they're aware that it's happening. We have to be completely transparent about any piece of that step, any process piece of it. The public must be aware of it. We can't have special interest groups telling us or dictating what's going to happen. I think that growth has to be well thought out. I think it has to be strategic, and I think it has to be balanced. And the pieces that come along with that, whatever those support systems are, we need to all be aware of them and make sure that we have a voice being said in regards to what happens in our county. Thank you.
They're constantly talking about how Calvert County has experienced very little growth, and they're very proud of that fact, but our neighboring counties have grown exponentially in population, and they come here and utilize our services and our businesses, and our infrastructure needs to be able to meet with the demand of also people from neighboring counties. In regards to business growth, my proposal would be to bring in people through tourism. We could have Science Center. We could have an art center that utilizes our 3 theater companies that don't have an own proper home. People can come here, spend their money, and then go home. This could bring in new revenue and more money for the community with local businesses that could help with our aging infrastructure. Thank you.
So according to the recent census, in the last 10 years, Calvert County grew by 4.5%. So that's an average of 0.45% a year. That for most places, they would tell you that's not enough. You should grow more than that. I think if you ask most citizens of Calvert County, they would tell you that's too much. And the reason that is because we have infrastructure issues from all the growth that we went through in the 80s and 90s that we still have not identified and fixed. So the issue that we have in Calvert County is because we are peninsula, we have water on both sides. We have one main artery running up and down the county. So according to the comprehensive plan, our build out should be around 125,000 people. We're today at 93,000 people. So we don't have a lot of more growth to go through, but we have to make sure that we take care of the infrastructure needs of today. Thank you.
All right, we will jump to a sheriff question. And this is a pretty easy one for you guys, should be. What are your short-term and long-term goals for the sheriff's office? We'll start with you.
Short-term and long-term goals. So basically, through this whole campaign process, I had a succession plan. So my long-term goals are included in that. I have 1 minute to talk about it, but having where I want to be at in 3, I kind of live my life this way. I'm kind of like the military coming back to me. I like to be efficient. I like to be effective. If it's not effective and not efficient, then we'll do it a different way. We'll find different ways. But I want to be committed to training short-term. I want to boost our patrol or response times. I want the deputies out there talking to the folks in the neighborhood by randomly stopping cars on Route 4. I think we can do better than that. And my goal is to have every deputy, you know the deputy by first name, so that's it. But my long-term goals is that I want to continue to having the safest county in the state of Maryland. That's my long-term goal. And continue to, as we're growing, there's a lot of cars out there on Route 4. We are the lowest percentage of deputies per cap on St. Mary's, Charles County, so I would do it that way. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so my short-term goals would be to continue to improve the community relationship. I'm big on community policing. I'm a school resource officer now, and I've been that for the last 14 years. So I am big on being in the community, doing community-related things. So my short term is to get back to servicing the community a little bit more and improving the school safety. Again, that's a pet peeve of mine. That's like a passion of mine, the school safety. So I would like to, realistically, getting 13 new deputies to do every elementary school is probably a little difficult, but I would like to at least add 6 more to our SRO unit, to our school resource officer, just to help out with the school safety. And those are my short term. Long term is just to continue to train us and make us well diverse in everything that's happening in the world right now with mental health and other issues going in the world. Just make sure that we're well trained and well diverse so that we can go out in the community and serve in an effective way.
Excellent. All right, back to the commissioner candidates. With the amount of failing septic systems in Calvert County and the challenges posed to businesses attempting to open in an area that requires a septic system. Are you open to expanding public water and sewer to areas that are in need? And we'll start with you, Mr. Hans.
There are several older communities, mainly in Calvert County, that have issues with septic. Apple Green and Dunkirk, Patuxent View down on 231, a couple other that have issues. And the only way to address those issues based on the density in those communities and the soil types, based on technology today, a lot of people talk about having sewer in those areas. The cost of putting that sewer in place is very expensive, but as time goes on and more homeowners have holding tanks, have issues with resale, there's going to be a greater push to get those homes on a sewer system. In Dunkirk, commercial businesses have the same issue. So eventually, there's going to come a time when the citizens are going to have to come together and approve a plan to put sewer in those areas.
Sir, could you repeat, even with my hearing aids, it's hard for me to hear you. Can you repeat that, please?
With the amount of failing septic systems in Calvert County and the challenges posed to businesses attempting to open in an area that requires a septic system, are you open to expanding public water and sewer to areas that are in need?
Yes, absolutely. I understand that there are some communities that are completely against it, so there has to be some sort of balance. We can't have homes on holding tanks that their property values will tank, and if they ever want to move or sell their home when they retire, they won't be able to, because who will buy their home? So we need to find a balance between putting people onto septic or sewer and updating our infrastructure so that we can handle this, especially along on commercial lines, because while I would prefer that businesses utilize those buildings that are already in existence, new buildings are constantly being built, whether we like it or not, and we need to update our infrastructure to reflect that.
So I am open to it if the residents are wanting it. I think that anytime we're going to make any of these sort of suggestions or thoughts toward improving these areas, and if the residents are not aware, then we have to stop. We have to take a pause. We have to open it up to a town hall. We have to talk about the ramifications of what this means. That includes costs, that includes concerns and fears that the residents may have in regards to anything that's going to cost and take more money away from putting food on the table and or unsustainable growth. So these are all things that have to be addressed in an open forum and discussed with the residents before I would be open with moving forward with it. Thank you.
I think cost is really the issue here. I would definitely want to talk to the local citizens about bringing in any public sewage system. I feel that by bringing them into the issue, there's got to be a point where people will understand that we need to transition our infrastructure, because if we don't, those septic systems are failing. We need to do something about them.
We are a peninsula. This is a result of high-density housing that I don't support without a strategic planning for our community. We need to take a look at our infrastructure. We need to see where the most need is and bring it to the people and all work together, because I'm running with only one special interest, and that's the citizens of Calvert County. I would always go back to the people, but I would not go empty-handed. I would go with the knowledge of alternatives that we may be able to take to improve the situation. Thank you.
So it's a fact. There's an issue with failing septics. But this is a double-edged sword with water and sewer. So you go ahead and do that, and now all of a sudden, you can connect an apartment to it. It sounds very innocent. Let's say it's 500 units. Pick a town. I mean, the traffic's bad enough as it is. You put 500 units, that's 1,000 cars. Think about that. Would anybody want 1,000 additional cars right there? the impact of schools, the impact of law enforcement. So it's not so simple as going, you know what, we got these failing systems, that's a fact, and it's a problem. But just throwing water and sewer at it, maybe you fix that issue, but what do you create after that? And that's what you got to think out. So it's not going to be just so simple as that. And Catherine's right when she said, you know, with some of this quick growth, I bet you in the 90s, if they had a crystal ball looking forward, they probably wouldn't have grown the same way they did. It would have been a little bit more thought into it.
So yes, we do have a problem with our sewer systems. With the people who's on holding tanks right now, we can fix that with the COMAR regulation. Just needs to go to Annapolis and we can fix that, get them off of the holding tanks. MDE just came down about a month ago with some new regs that our health department will not tell us how to fix our septics anymore. So we're having a meeting next couple of weeks to determine who's going to have to pay for it. Does it have to go to an engineer? And how will we go forward with this? As far as fixing these failing systems in these communities, Kenwood Beach, et cetera, we do have sanitation districts. Who pays for it, et cetera. The science on these new systems has gone leaps and bounds of cleaning these waters up. We have to have good conversations on how to fix these failing systems, and it can be done. Thank you.
All right. Next question for the commissioners, or commissioner candidates. This is a question about permitting. It seems that the requirements and timelines for permits, residential and commercial, continue to be an issue. What changes would you propose to the process?
Oh, so it does take a long time to get a permit. You know, the days of going in and getting a permit in 30 days are gone. A lot of that are state requirements. It's got to go through multiple departments now for approval. One department can't approve until the next one does, and it takes months. You know, you hear years for large projects to get the permits in place. And to speed up that, we've tried every way we can to introduce technology, to add staff. It's just the amount of regulation that's in place today, it's hard to expedite a permit like most people would like to see.
When talking to people and they're telling me about the permit process, I'm starting to hear that a lot of their issues come from a lack of transparency and communication. So one thing I would propose is that there is more transparency between the departments in charge of permits and the people asking for these permits so that they can see a more direct timeline and be able to get affairs in order and make sure things are in when they're supposed to be, because they are waiting and then not hearing an answer. A lot of the times they're just like, I would feel better if I just knew where I am in the process. So I feel that that transparency and telling people up front, this is how long it's going to take on average, and this is what we can expect, and we'll give you frequent updates. And I feel like that would make people feel a lot better. Thank you.
So, state-driven, right? So there's a lot of, we're under Dillon rules here in Calvert County, all right? So we have state-driven policies and pieces that affect us. So in that vein, the permits and zoning process is going to continue to be cumbersome. And I believe, I sat down with the director of permits and zoning, I sat down with the director of economic development, and we spoke about the permits and the frustration that our residents have in regards to how long it takes. And I think having a system that everyone can understand and review and see where their permits are so they can track it, that's something that's coming online. I applaud that. And I applaud any effort, of course, to make it transparent so I can see where my deck is going to be, where my deck permit is, or if I'm going to do an addition to my house, I can see where that permit's at. So all those things so I can understand it and I don't get frustrated and get angry so that I know where I'm at in the process, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I don't buy that the current system is...
Do we want to pause just until this is done? And I apologize for that. I know you were doing your best to power over top of that.
I know.
Which was good.
I'm
We all heard it.
Throat by the end of this.
I don't know how long it's going to go on. All right, Ms. Powell.
Okay. I don't buy that the system is there's so many steps that we have to do. I understand that. I worked in planning and zoning when I worked for the county. And what we did there is we had a system analysis done. We followed a permit through the process, and we were able to cut down considerably on time that permit was processed. We need to look at that process. I've heard too many complaints from people who want to do startups in the county. Stay away from Calvert because you'll be waiting 1-2 years. That's ridiculous.
Who would have thought little old Calvert County would have such a cumbersome process now? It happens when you grow. It happens when the state comes into our county and requires certain things of us, environmental requirements, so on and so forth. I have met with planning and I have met with economic development as well. They do hear the complaints, and they gave me a handful of examples as to why things can slow down. I see that, but I do think we need to take another look at it and see if we can streamline it a little bit better. But make no mistake, the state is involved. There's certain procedures and policies, regulations we have to follow, and that hamstrings us as well. Thank you.
Just checking. Okay. So
think you're
anybody's been
clear.
around for a while, remembers Fast Track. I think it used to be on a Wednesday, I believe. But back when I was a kid, my pop could go up and I want to say it was a Wednesday. You get your permit almost same day. That's back when no one lived here. That's back when stormwater management was not an issue. You didn't have to worry about where water ran because it was acres between places. But now, when you got the houses bumped up like this, you have residents saying, I've got water destroying my driveway, but it's from my neighbor. You need to make him fix it. You gave him that permit. And the state of Maryland come out and said, well, this is how you're going to handle water now. And it takes longer because it's another hand in there. It's another analyzing where's that water coming from. Anybody who lives on the water knows you're in that 1,000-foot buffer line. And MDE is an unmovable stone. They don't care. You're going to put it the way it is now. So all these things take time, and it's very true. It takes a while, and we're aware, and we are trying to speed that process up as best as possible.
I think we need to differentiate, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a fence permit, a pool, a shed permit, or are we talking about house permit, or are we talking about a subdivision permit? Just like Commissioner Hart said with Fast Track, it was a wonderful program. We went in there, we did pool permit, you walked it through all the agency, it was no grading permit, you got your permit. We can improve the process we have. In St. Mary's County, top of their permits, they have a date on it. When I turn the permit in, I know what date is coming back to me. And you don't have to call 3-4 agencies. Well, it's on her desk, it's on his desk, it's in this agency. So I think the date process will help with this, and we can improve on this issue. Thank you.
All right, we'll jump to the sheriffs, our sheriff candidates. School safety is a major concern in our community. What do you intend to do to ensure the safety of our students? And we'll start with you this time.
So that's close to my heart. Again, like I said, I'm a school resource officer, and I have done that now for the last 14 years. We have safe schools, as safe as they can be right now. We just want to improve on that. I'd like to add them in the elementary schools. That's 13 more, so that would be difficult. If we can't get 13 more, maybe we get 6, and we can split the county. One work the 2 elementary schools south, one work the 2 elementary schools central, one works the two elementary schools to the north, and just kind of get 6 until we can get it up to 13. We also can keep training the teachers with active shooter training. I train the teachers, the staff at my middle schools. Often I go in and I have active shooter training with just the staff, and we go over all the drills and all the necessities that we need to go over for an active shooter. But I would love to expand the SRO program and get a deputy in every school and just keep doing what we're doing right now.
School safety, I think my record shows that this has been my #1 priority moving forward as I've been talking about it. It is close to my heart also because I have a wife that teaches at Plum Point Middle School, and I have 2 children in the public school system. We've already put it together to put 12 new deputies inside of our elementary schools to have them safe and secured because they're the most vulnerable, and I think they need to be there. And that's going to be up to the commissioners to fund it or figure out how we can do that. So I want to work really hard on that. I've personally conducted active shooter drills, and we haven't done that for many years now. We need to get in the schools and teach our staff what and what not to do, how we do our tactics, what will happen if an event does occur. We need to do that. And lastly, I just want to build a better relationship, what it has been with the school board itself, and I think very improved. And I've already had meetings with the new superintendent as well, and I plan on building that relationship and making it better. And let's get back in our schools and make them safe, and that's my #1 plan.
All right. For the commissioner candidates, how do you plan to preserve our rural character and simultaneously preserve our quality of life, keeping the quality services we have now and not increasing taxes? I think we started with you last, Commissioner. We'll start with you, Mr. Cox.
Okay, I think our rural character is very important to all of us here throughout the county. We have TDR programs, we have different programs throughout the county to preserve farmland. We just did the Yo property down there, right past Brooms Island Road. We need to concentrate on making sure these processes are still intact, and make sure that we do all we can to protect the rural character of this county. Thank you.
So rural character is premium. We have a goal of 40,000 acres to preserve. We're somewhere in the 30s. So we're not done. We need to preserve more of our rural character and more property. That's got to be premium, and that's going back to the adequate public facilities ordinance to make sure that we protect all that. And then also with services and taxes, I've proven that. Lowered taxes 3 times. We've kept the best credit rating that a county can have for 6 straight years, and we'll maintain that. And I've said this many times at other forums, it's not any miracle or hocus pocus or anything like that. We live within our means. It's an old-fashioned approach to things that you were taught as a child. If you don't have the money for something, you can't afford it. And that's how we approach it. The answer's not come to you, raise taxes. The answer's not cut this service. It's live within our means. We'll grow as we're able to grow. We'll be able to put things out as fast as it will allow it to be, but we can't provide a service that we can't pay for.
I attended the first Police Accountability Board meeting, and they went around to all of the individuals who are on that committee, and they asked them what brought them to Calvert County. What did they like about Calvert County? All of them, every one of them, no matter your party, said the rural character of Calvert County. That's what the people want. That's what we need to preserve. It is incumbent upon us as Board of County Commissioners to be good stewards of the budgeting system within our county. We have to realize for every action, there is a reaction. We have to think strategically, and we have to think smart and not raise taxes on our citizens. The economy is so bad. People are out of work. More people are going to be out of work. We will not raise taxes on you all. Thank you.
Well, I'm all for keeping the rural atmosphere because that's why we came to Calvert County. And yes, keep the TDR program, invest in our town centers. without expanding them, keeping them in the boundaries they are in now. And also, I think that we need to focus on tourism. I mean, we're like a little emerald in Maryland. We're beautiful. We got to keep it that way. And if we focus on our strengths, which is tourism, and maybe do some branding, some marketing, we could really build our tourism up in this county. Thank you.
To some degree, I feel that I've given you my answer on this. I feel strongly about our rural character. I feel strongly about our residents having transparency about anything that's going to go on within our county and any ramifications it will have against how we feel about where we live and where we raise our children. It's absolutely important. And I believe that there are pieces and a balance that we can find, and the answers are here in our county. We have so many well-talented, well-educated, experienced people here in the county that know what it takes for us to get these things done and know how to do it in a manner that it does not impact us negatively. And that's what we have to do. We get back to those roots, we talk to the individuals that live here, we talk about what we need and what we want, and we balance that out. And then we don't talk about raising taxes because it's already expensive enough. We don't want to raise any more taxes, and we don't want to take food away from our families. Thank you.
Raising revenue should be a top priority, and we need to learn to do it in ways that we haven't done before. One such is we have a planetarium that is currently sitting unused, and by working with our Board of Ed, we could turn it into a world-class science center that would bring in revenue from the base families in St. Mary's, from the base families in PG County, from school systems bringing their children here and spending money at that planetarium. We have Anne Marie Gardens that take statues from the Smithsonian Hirshhorn. We have the skeletal system to become a jewel for the arts and the sciences and bring in tourism dollars without bringing in the population that would stay here.
So currently in Calvert County, we use two tools mainly to preserve rural character, and that is the TDR program and zoning. And if you look through the comprehensive plan, it lays out a map of how we grow in the future. The issue can be sometimes we tinker with that comprehensive plan and we make changes that we shouldn't. Since I've been in office, asked some questions about economics, and in some cases, as a county, we'd be better off buying up those TDRs and burning them than to allow that growth to move forward because it costs us money at the end of the day. People think that growth pays. Not all growth pays. A lot of growth does not pay. A lot of growth causes county government more in services than it creates in revenue. We're very fortunate in Calvert County. We have a high medium income and we have a couple revenue sources, and I don't see anything in the short term that would cause us to have to raise taxes. Thank you.
Excellent. I am going to jump to questions from the audience because I have quite a few of them. So if we can run through these as quickly as we can so I can get to as many of them as we can, and we're not here until midnight, that would be excellent. So do your best to answer quickly. I'll just go with the one that is right on top, and this is directed to a specific person. This is directed to Ms. Catherine Grosso. It says, what is your position regarding the role of commissioners with the Board of Education and their policy?
Okay.
Is this better, ma'am? Thank you.
All right. What is your position regarding the role of commissioners with the Board of Education's policy? And that was directed to Ms. Catherine Grosso, so we'll start there.
Okay. Our relationship with them is that over half of our budget goes to the school system. We have to have a good relationship with our Board of Education, with our superintendent, and we need to start fresh, and we need to start it now. We have a new superintendent, Dr. Townsell, and I have asked to sit down and meet with him. He's been very busy, as you know, and has not had time to meet with me yet, but I want to sit down with him, and I want to see if we can work together. I say, see if we can work together. I know we can work together. I don't think there's anything that can't be accomplished or resolved if you just don't come to the table and sit down and talk. Thank you.
If anybody else would like to give a response, we will start with Ms. Powell and then work our way this way and then back.
Well, I believe that there should be a collegial relationship between the school board and the commissioners. The school board has professionals. They know how to do their budget. We need to put a little bit more trust in that they know what they're doing. I don't think that the commissioners should hover over the education board. I feel that there needs to be a partnership between them. Thank you.
I like the idea of a partnership. It's obviously communication is key, and no matter what we do in this. No, I'm sorry. Communication is key no matter what we do in this county, whether it's the Board of Education, whether it's our directors of our departments, or it's our residents and our parents of our children. The relationship between myself or the the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of Education is crucial. We have to make sure that the Board of Education has their funding, and we have to, be out of the way. We have to make sure that funding is there. We have to find the money, and we have to let them do their job, and trust as elected officials they're going to do the job that they were voted in to do.
Since the Board of County Commissioners provides the Board of Ed with the majority of their funding, I feel it is important for us to make sure that they have the funding that they need, that we can sit down, work together, and agree upon something that helps every student in this county, and we need to trust the Board of Ed that these people, the superintendent, who is an incredibly well-educated and knows what he is doing, is making the correct choices, and we need to keep politics out of what comes into the budget, and we can't just say, well, I don't like what you're doing, so withholding funds. We need to ensure that our educational system is funded without politics getting involved.
So currently, the school board is elected by the citizens of Calvert County. The county commissioners play no role in adopting policies and procedures for the school system. Do we communicate? Absolutely, we communicate. I think this year we're going to give them $140 million to operate the school system. Every once in a while, we do question their expenditures. I think I have a fiscal responsibility to do that on the behalf of all the citizens of Calvert County. We don't just write them a blank check. We want to make sure that, at least in our view, they're spending their money wisely and based on what we hear back from citizens. But we communicate all the time, but we don't engage in policy or procedures from the school board. Thank you.
Excuse me. As you know, the only thing the county commissioners do as far as the school board is fund the MOE. We funded the MOE again this year. I think the communication bridge between the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education is broken. I think we need to do all we can do to repair that gap and make sure that Dr. Townsend has all necessary resources that is needed to get our school system back on track. Our school systems have fallen from 1-2 down to 12th, I believe it, in the state of Maryland. We need to improve that, and we must work together. Thank you.
Well, I think Mark hit on a perfect point. That needs to be the number one objective, is to get our school system to be the best as it possibly can be. Now, is that a money issue? Is it a issue with how we communicate with the Board of Education? I don't put politics into any of those decisions. I approach everything like a business. Calvert County is a $340 million business. If you don't think it is, we make payroll, we fix things, we rate policies, we do everything that a business does, and it's not whether it's trust or what have you, it's a responsibility that no one is that good that can just do it on their own. It takes the entire team approach. Every time that we've ever worked together, we've been extremely successful. When it came to school safety and we got together, there wasn't locks on doors, there wasn't even doors on classrooms, and we got together and we got that done. And that's the type of approach we'll always have to be going forward, is working together. But when you question something, it's not a mistrust or a slander at anybody. It's just trying to make sure we do the best we can for everyone.
All right. Next question for the commissioner candidates. Don't worry, guys. I got a whole pile for you over here, okay? So I'm coming to you in a little bit. The Calvert Board of County Commissioners, all 5 sitting members, signed a proclamation for LGBTQ. The only one to recognize that proclamation was McConkey. Will you support the LGBTQ community in Calvert?
Signed the proclamation. We get lots of requests for proclamations. They come before us. Some weeks I've signed a stack of proclamations that big. We don't do all of those on camera. Sometimes we go out in front of organizations and give out those proclamations, which was the case for the LGBTQ proclamation. Commissioner McConkey delivered that on behalf of the Board of Commissioners to, I think it was a Board of Education meeting, but we all 5 signed that, so we support the proclamation that we signed, of course.
That proclamation was never put on any county website, unlike every other proclamation that is ever done by the Board of County Commissioners. Obviously, I would make sure that that happens. The LGBTQ population here in Calvert County are citizens of Calvert County, equal to everyone else. And making sure that they have the representation and the full support of their government is a priority for me.
Yes, I would be supportive of all citizens in Calvert County.
That population is very, very near and dear to my heart because I have a sister who's part of that population, and I would definitely support it.
As a county commissioner, I will be working and supporting all citizens of Calvert County, including LGBTQ.
So I think Commissioner Hance answered it perfectly. There's a lot of proclamations that we do all the time. I've done a few 100-year birthday parties for the person who just turned 100 years old, anniversaries, special accomplishments that happen, and not everything does make it to Tuesday, even though we would love to get everything on Tuesday, but I think we have expressed many times that we support all citizens of Calvert County. I don't look at anybody, I look at, are you a Calvert Countian? And that's what you pay me to do. You pay me to do the best I can for all citizens of Calvert County, whether Republican, Democrat, Independent. Most folks that come and ask me for help probably never voted for me, might not even like me, but it's my job and my obligation to do everything I can to help every citizen of Calvert County, and I've always approached it that way.
Yes, I will help all citizens of Calvert County, including the LGBTQ community also. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to switch to the sheriff candidates real quick. Let's see if we can hit some of these. And we'll begin with you, Mr. Cox, this time. What are your views / feelings / goals in I can't read this. I guess I should have read it before I started. Oh, okay. In reference to concealed gun carry in Calvert County and gun control.
Throughout my campaign, we had a lot that dealt with the constitutional sheriff through the Republican primary, and I've given my stance on this question here, and I made my promise to support all rights of every citizen that lives here, including the Second Amendment rights. And what I want to do is I want more integrated training. I want to make people more educated. If you're carrying a gun out there, I want you to know how to use it, and that's what I'm going to bring back is the Citizen Police Academy, and we'll have some live fire in there and how to properly use it, situations when you can or cannot do. But I totally support it as sheriff moving forward.
So I support responsible gun ownership. As long as you're responsible with it and you follow all the laws with it, I support it. I love the idea of training the citizens to be better equipped at carrying it and understanding the safety issues of it. I know in my school I talk to a lot of parents about how to store it safely and proper way to use it. So I support responsible gun ownership.
Excellent. What will you do to integrate mental health supports for our county's officers so they become a part of the culture and not something that needs to be sought out? I'm not sure about the end of that, but we'll stick with mental health support, if you'd like to
Okay.
start.
So the Sheriff's Office has done a pretty good job here lately. We have an app that's active for all the Sheriff's Office employees right now that you can take a self-assessment. I will continue down that path, continue our partnerships with outside agencies, the health department. I used to work with a doctor that has a podcast now, and she does a lot of mental health exercises where she actually comes down and teaches everybody how to meditate and be self-aware of yourself, and she's interested in coming down and showing the deputies how they can take a quick 10-minute break during their tour just to get themselves together and take a little break and assess their own mental health. So we definitely will focus on your self-awareness, because that's big. As long as your self-awareness is big and your self-health is good, you can go out and patrol the county safely and not be in a bad frame of mind.
Mental health is a big issue in our line of work, and I think when I started as a deputy, I think it was ignored, and I think now that it's coming to light, I think that we're reaching out to different avenues to where we can help our deputies, not just our deputies, but also our citizens that live here, because I think it's very important. What I want to do is to focus on this. I've already talked about it. I've already researched. It's a grant-funded program through a university that brings health and mental wellness to our agency, but that also includes marriage counseling, because in our job and line of work, we see a lot of divorces out there, and me as the sheriff, I don't even know that program's there to use it. I don't need to know until I need to know. If you're dealing with mental health, if you're having marriage issues, and also it has it includes substance abuse too. We've had some issues. Let's be honest, we've had some issues there at the sheriff's office that we need to get out in front of, and this is an avenue where a deputy can reach out and get the help that he needs, and we can fix those issues before they become bigger.
All right, we're going to jump back to the commissioners just for a little bit. I have two more questions for you guys. The current Board of County Commissioners suspended Phase 2 of the proposed expansion of Prince Frederick because it would have exceeded the capacity of the wastewater system. What will you do to prevent new residential construction from overloading the county's wastewater treatment capacity? We'll start with you, Mr. Cox.
Well, I think it was only at 70%, maybe 75% capacity in Prince Frederick. We are looking for more options to distribute the effluent that comes out of them treatment plants. But there again, our adequate facility plans touches on this. It touches on our roads, our water, our sewers, our schools. So with that in place, like I said before, we need to constantly look and review this adequate facility plan, and everything else will take place. Thank you.
Going back to what Mark just said, absolutely. That ordinance was put in years ago when hardly anyone lived here, and it's antiquated. So it has to be updated, and it has to be updated to when you get in your car, it's not good enough to just get out to the road. It's when you get out, we all have to use Route 4. Nobody is happy with the traffic pattern on Route 4. So it's from roads to schools, and the big problem with septic. We cannot outgrow this infrastructure. So if we update this policy the right way, that won't even be an issue. But we have to get a handle on it now. We can't wait.
The policy does have to be updated. What I've been talking about, and most of us have been, is our infrastructure, high-density housing, what the people of Calvert County want. For every action, there's a reaction. We have got to be strategic with our roads, with our building, with our sewer system, our septic system, our sewer systems. We have to be smart, or we're going to find ourselves having big problems if we don't think strategically and get all of the, I would say, environmental studies. We need to bring that into when we build, when we have roads. Environmental studies are so important. Everything that we do impacts our bay, impacts the Patuxent River, the quality of our farmers, the quality of our fishermen. We've got to be cognizant of everything.
In the comprehensive plan, there is a number that the county is to follow in building residents, and that number escapes me right now. But we've been doing above and beyond that. We are not following our own plan. What we need to do is come up with a fail-safe practice where we don't go against the comprehensive plan. We need to stay within its boundaries. Thank you.
I've spent more than about close to 14 years in the construction field. I have planned projects, I have installed projects, I have led work teams and sites. I understand that process very well. And anything we do that's going to impact this county, and I've said this before, we have to be transparent about it. Of course we should be doing studies and looking at what's going to happen, the impact it's going to have on us and our families and our children and our environment. All those things need to happen. But then we need to say, here's the answer. Here it is. We're showing it to you. Please take your time to review it. Let us know what you think. Come back to us and tell us where it's at, because that balance has to be sought. We have to find it. And that process the entire time must be so we can all see it and know who's doing that study, know who's coming through with it, and then being open about our answers, and then how do we as residents feel about it.
I feel like we need to take a twofold approach. We need to fix and update our infrastructure to increase its capacity, but at the same time, not increase the amount of housing and development in this county. Calvert County is not an island. People drive through here, people come here and work during the day, and they go home. They're still using our infrastructure and putting work into it. They're using our sewer, they're using our electric, they're using our water. So we need to account for the growth that occurs just from people driving through here on a daily basis and work on our infrastructure that way while not increasing it with our own in-house population.
So the current event that triggered this question was about a comment that was made at a planning commission one night about putting a pipe from Prince Frederick to Solomons to treat wastewater. That triggered this entire event. The Board of Commissioners had not heard about this staff person's thoughts to put a line to Solomons. So we quickly nixed that idea, and that triggered a discussion about the capacity at the plant in Prince Frederick, which is about at 67%. MDE has a schedule based on percentages of capacity of what you have to do. At 70%, you have to start to develop a strategic plan of how you're going to accommodate future growth. The plant in Prince Frederick, technically it wasn't the processing end of that plant. There's plenty of processing capacity left at that plant. What the issue was the capacity to get rid of the gray water, which staff is working on. They have some solutions. But for all sewer treatment plants, based on your permit, there's a progression based on capacity that you have to meet. Thank you.
All right. I'll jump back to the sheriffs. Got a couple more for you guys, and then we'll probably jump to closing statements from there. What are your thoughts on deploying a beat system and large local developments to create working relationships with the community?
Could you repeat the question?
Sorry. What are your thoughts on deploying a beat system in a large local developments to create working relationships with the community?
I'm totally on board with it. I think through my forums I've been talking about, and this is part of my plans at the sheriff's office, taking over as sheriff if elected. But what I want to bring back is the resident deputy program, and I think this is what this is talking about. So any of our large communities out there, that's including the Ranch Club, White Sands, Huntingtown area, Dunkirk, those larger communities will have a resident deputy, and my idea is to use the elementary school system zoning to provide that, and that deputy is going to be assigned to that area, and he's going to be your go-to. So if you have an issue, if you have neighborhood problems, or you're arguing with your neighbor, he's going to be your go-to, and if he can't handle that, then we'll send other resources to handle that. But the resident deputy program is what I'm calling it, and I think it'll work well, and it'll bring back almost that emotional touch that the community's looking for our deputies, and I think it's more of an outreach program too as well.
That's something that's been big on my platform is community policing, getting back in the communities. We would like to make sure that the deputies are in the neighborhoods, every patrol, that you pass out your cards, that you get to know all of your communities, that you get to introduce yourself to them, you give your number to them, so if something happens in that community that you patrol, that you are assigned to, they can come right and get in touch with you at any time, and you can build a relationship with them. I'm big on getting our deputies back into the communities by any fresh new programs, any fresh thoughts, anything that we can do to get them back in the communities. I would be open to do that. Like to get in first just to see, get our manpower, make sure everything is what we need. But being in the communities is what I'm about. So that's a big part of getting back into the communities and making sure that we are active in the communities and that we are also communicating with the communities to let them know what's going on so they know exactly what's happening on a daily basis.
All right. And this next one says, in retrospect, can you suggest any alternative to tear gassing the marchers at the George Floyd march that occurred in June of 2021? And we'll start with you, RJ.
So the march that they had in Prince Frederick is what you're referring to?
Yes, I
Okay.
I didn't write it.
Okay. So I would just communicate a little bit more. That's what I would do. The short answer to that is just to communicate more. Going into that, I don't want to discuss all the technical stuff, but going into it that even though it was a walk, at some point that they're probably going to sit down and protest. So you have to go into that being ready for that to happen and just communicate a little bit more, give them a little bit more time, and just communicate just a little bit more, maybe. I think we had a little bit more time to communicate. They were in a safe spot. They didn't impede any traffic. The businesses was in a pretty good spot right there, so no businesses were in harm, no traffic was impeded, so a little bit more time to communicate would have been a better solution.
What happened, you're talking about, you're referring to the question, the situation I think could be resolved. It was resolved without really any injuries and real property damage. And I can tell you right now, sitting up here, that as sheriff, I will not let anybody come in and destroy our county or break any laws, or you're going to go to jail. And I stick to that. And I think better communication. I was in the meeting, the prep for it, and I think better organization with the organizers. The permitting was kind of weird. The verbiage of it, what they could or cannot do. So we need to make that clear for next time. So we need to clean that up. And the tear gas part of it, I was on an overwatch position when that occurred. But my assistant sheriff, Dave Payne, he specializes in this and the special police officer for the federal side. So this is what he does. And going back to that situation, there were agitators in there. So if we can go in there and pull the agitators out, I think that would have been a peaceful protest without using tear gas. And I think that's the truth. And I think that would have happened.
All right. Last question for the sheriffs. The Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association states that the power of sheriffs exceeds even the president's powers. They believe they are the final arbiter of federal laws in the county. Mr. Cox's website states that he is a constitutional sheriff. I do not see that on Mr. Johnson's website. Would each candidate please state his position on this organization and its views and explain that position? We'll start with you, Mr.
As sheriff, I've been putting it out there. The constitutional sheriff, which the sheriff does have a lot of power within this county. He works for the citizens, and going back to the Constitution, I'm protecting everybody's rights. I don't care who you are, where you live at, or what your situation is. I'm going to be a sheriff that supports everybody's rights. And in doing that, I think that the constitutional part is referring to that. You're talking about the organization. But as sheriff, I'm going to protect the rights of every citizen, and I've stuck to that since day one, and that's including every bit of the Constitution. And I work for you, the citizens. You elect the sheriff, and I plan on doing that.
So I'm not a part of that group. of course, because I'm not the sheriff yet, and I don't want to be a part of the group, but I'm here to protect everyone's rights, everyone's constitutional rights. So if you have to deal with a deputy in Calvert County, we will ensure that your rights aren't violated. We will ensure that every citizen in Calvert County get the rights that they are afforded to. So in saying that, you are a constitutional sheriff because you will make sure that everybody's constitutional rights are protected. And that's how I see the constitutional sheriff, that I'm here to protect your safety and also make sure that your rights, your constitutional rights, aren't violated.
Excellent. And now we'll start with closing statements. If you want to begin, Mr. Cox.
Thank you for having us tonight. We have touched on many topics and concerns tonight at this forum and many other forums that we have had. All of them are near and dear to my heart. We live in a unique county, the bay on one side, the river on the other side, rolling farmlands, houses, businesses in between. I want to be a part of the conversations that are needed to protect our county's rural character, our waters, our sewer systems, and so forth. I would be honored to have your vote in November. You can vote early, you can vote by mail, or you can vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank, once again, everyone involved, from the Prince Frederick Fire Department to the Chamber, everyone that put this out here so the public can see this. I've had the privilege of being your commissioner for the last 8 years, something I don't take lightly. I respect the chair, and I respect everyone in this county, and I want the opportunity to continue to provide an atmosphere where we have safe schools. We have the county that I grew up in, which doesn't look the same anymore as it did when I was a kid, but to try to keep it as rural as possible to where we don't worry about our kids at the parks, and we don't worry about our moms and daughters going out to the stores or anything like that. A nice, safe community. And back to where we talk to each other. You know, the community I grew up in, we talk to each other. This county always talked to each other. And I hope going forward that, you know, COVID is hopefully in the rearview mirror and we back to seeing each other again and talking and discussing anything. And I would hope to have your support in November. Thank you.
I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and Prince Frederick Fire Department. I want to restore and preserve Calvert County's quality of life. Too much growth, traffic congestion, high-density buildings such as apartments are spoiling our community. I am a lifelong Republican. I offer authentic, independent, and conservative leadership. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. Integrity goes to the core of who I am. My name is Catherine Grosso, and I'd be honored to earn your vote November 8th. Thank you very much.
Why vote for me? Well, number one, I'll hit the ground running. I have the experience and I understand county government. Two, I'll be your eyes and ears at those meetings. I believe in transparency, and in fact, I will push for meetings to be in the evening. The third thing is, I love the county. I love the people. I love the rural setting. And I think that what I have to offer will add value and put us in a better quality of life. Please vote for Tricia Powell on November 8th. Thank you.
I offer you my service. At 18 years old, I signed up for the United States Navy. My mom actually had to sign my paperwork for me to go in. I was a hall technician. I was a pipe fitter, welder, sheet metal worker. Met my wife there, got out of the Navy, ended up going to Pennsylvania and working in construction. I worked many years in construction, many of them also as a union member. I joined the Army Guard. I got deployed from 03 to 04. I was an infantry squad leader. I led peacekeeping patrols in Kosovo. I worked with Orthodox Christians and Muslims, and I helped them try to come together and not be angry with one another and try to get along. I ran 14 years as a national nonprofit. I ran Helmets to Hearts. I was the executive director. I did that work because I care about the people. And that work consisted of helping veterans find careers in construction. I had to work with grants, I had to find money, I had to make payroll. It was all very important, but at the end of the day, I did this for my family, and I will do this work for your family as well. I offer my service with integrity and with honor. Please think of me on November 8th.
If there's one thing I've proven time and time again is that I'm good at bringing different voices together to solve problems using the best methods and evidence we have possible. I will never put aside the needs of one community to maintain another person's standards. I will always ask the hard questions, no matter who the person is. I serve daily, and I will continue to do that, hopefully with the Board of County Commissioners. I'd like to bring a fresh perspective, new ideas, and just bring a little bit of humanity to the current board, and also to just put everyone on the level playing field that we all deserve. Thank you.
So in the past 4 years, I voted against town center expansion. I have voted to reduce density in our town centers. I support our teachers. I've supported our school board. I have not withheld funding from the school board for politics for any reason. People talk about raising their taxes. We're all concerned about our taxes. To do that, you have to be a fiscal conservative, and I am that. You have to ask tough questions. Sometimes you have to say no, and I have done that, and I will continue to do that. The two sheriff candidates tonight both mentioned hiring 12 new officers for school resource officers in our schools, which I support. However, the price tag for those 12 officers is over $2 million. In 10 years, it'll be over $3 million. So I'm going to ask some tough questions when we have that discussion. Doesn't mean I don't support having more resource officers. So I'm Buddy Hance, candidate for County Commissioner at Large. I ask for your vote, and no matter which form you vote in this upcoming general election season. It's been an honor and a privilege, and I thank you, and I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event tonight.
Ready? Oh. Focused, driven, and committed. So I could stand up here or sit here and tell you everything that I plan on doing, keeping the community safe, keeping the schools safe, keeping our deputies safe for mental health issues. But honestly, what I really want to be is a leader that replaces I with we. A leader that inspires the county and the deputies to come together so that we can use this as a unified approach, that we all come together, that we put the politics aside, that we put the fear tactics aside, that we all come together to make Calvert County exactly what we want it to be. A safe place for our communities, a safe place for our businesses, a safe place for our kids to go to school and not feel like they're in harm's way. We need to just put all that aside and come together, and I want to be that leader to do that. We all want Calvert County to be this image, this safe and sound Calvert County, and I want to be that leader that takes us all there. I think I've proven that by making my second in command a Republican and putting aside all the politics to bring us all together so that we can have that one common goal, a safe Calvert County. Thank you.
First off, I'd like to thank the FOP. I just received the FOP endorsement, so having that trust of the men and women that work at the Calvert County Sheriff's Office to be the next sheriff, I appreciate that. This has been my childhood dream since I was a kid to be your next sheriff. I set goals for myself. I want to be a United States Marine. I did that. I wanted to have my education under my belt. I went to night school where I was raising a family while running a patrol shift. I got my degree. And I wanted to be at the command level of the sheriff's office. I've commanded every bureau of that agency, and I know the ins and outs and the working jobs of that position to take over as sheriff. Because when I was there, I wanted to know your job. I wanted to know how to do it. If you weren't here, I wanted to put myself in your seat and be able to do it and do it well. And that's what kind of leader I am, and that's what I bring to the sheriff's office. My vision is having ideas that are bold and constructed to meet the challenges of our times, but big enough to unite the people of our county. I think that's very important. This is what my leadership can do, and this is why I want this position as sheriff, and this is why I'm asking for your vote November 8th. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. That concludes our forum.